Alright guys, if you haven't seen it, Atomic Mass Games just announced that there's a new core set coming out in October, and I've foolishly committed to reviewing all of the stuff that they put out, or at least just the 11 characters. And this episode's going to be about Captain Marvel Cosmic Avenger. This video is going to be long, so strap in, because she has two cards, because she's a transform model. So she is 4/4/4 defenses, 7 hit points on each side, doesn't actually change back to front. 5 threat, size 2, medium move. I really like that she doesn't change stats based on form. This can mean that there's really no benefit in trying to hold binary form and trying to stay in it, or feeling like defensively you're at a disadvantage if you're not in binary. She's just as durable whether she's in binary or not. And I think that holds true with like her strength in the comics. So on her normal side, Photon Blast. Range 4, 5 die. This is a builder with Wild Pursuit. Pursuit is after you hit them, advance, or after you hit the wild, advanced 4 before damage is dealt. Commandos have this. It's really, really good on the commandos. The other person that has it is Angela. It's kind of bad on Angela because it's on a spender. She has like a 1-cost spender that she only does when she doesn't want to walk and hit something, so often you are like relying on that pursuit trigger to hit for the attack to be good. I also think it's a hit pursuit on her. But Wild Pursuit here is really good. This is, I think, actually really important because without it, this character is a turret and doesn't really get to move around until she can transform. So being able to hit the Wild Pursuit and reposition yourself a little bit is going to be very, very important to this character. Sonic Boom, range 3, 6 dice. This is another builder. Wild Concussive. After the attack is resolved, the character loses 1 power. It's important to note here that this is the worst version of this effect because it's only 1 no matter how many wilds you have. It's not like Psylocke's ability where you just, for every wild, you can just make them discard power. A lot of people call this like bad sap. I mean, it's better than having no wild effect, but yeah, like a 6-die builder that makes them lose 1 power, maybe it'll be relevant every other game. But it's literally better than nothing. Advanced Energy Absorption. When this character is defending against an energy or mystic attack, for each wild in the defense roll, it may change one of the attacker's crits, wilds, or hit results to a blank. This character gains 1 power for each die changed this way. This is like reverse Pierce. But unlike Pierce, it stacks, so you roll 3 wilds, you're probably not taking any damage. Now it's important to understand the timing of this ability. This goes essentially last. So before, before damage dealt triggers happen, like Pursuit, so it'll stop like a Pursuit or something like that, but it won't stop Pierce, and Pierce can deny this of you. I don't think it's a huge deal, but it is relevant, like Killmonger's not totally hosed trying to attack her. Higher, Further, Faster. At the start of this character's activation, if it has 6 or more power, it transforms into Captain Marvel Cosmic Avenger. This is not a May. If you go to 6 power, you're the other one. Important timing trigger here. If for some reason you want to stay small, or stay the normal version, your activation starts and you have a window to play cards, or your turn starts and you have a window to play cards before the activation starts. You call that a punch. When this character is dealt damage by an enemy effect, after the effect is resolved, it gains 1 power. So this is essentially ornery, so every time she takes damage, you get an extra power. Immune to Incinerate, immune to Poison. Fantastic. Big complaint here is that without binary form, this character does not carry 5 threat. She is probably about as durable as a 5 threat. Like most 5 threats are like 4/4/3 and like 14 hit points, or they have 1 weak defensive stat. And hers is physical technically, but she's still def 4 there. And she's a little bit turrety. Like if she does not start in range of anyone, the character has to spend 1 action moving, and then her ability is walk, attack, maybe make a 6-die attack. To her backside, the fun side. Like I said, defenses stay the same. Binary Blast. This is a range 2 6-die 1-cost spender. After the attack is resolved, this character pushes the target short, so unsized push on it, and directionless push as well. It has Wild Incinerate. Love Wild Incinerate. Warbird, range 3, 8 dice, 3-cost spender. After the attack is resolved, place the character within 2 of the target characters. So like an even better version of like what Wolverine does with either Berserker Barrage or Logan's base attack. Has Wild Throw, unsized, so she can throw sentinels around. She has Crit Wild Explosive. Before damage is dealt, other enemy characters within 2 of the target character suffer 1 damage. It's so hard to talk about this character as we go along. But these are both really good spenders. They're really energy efficient, the kind of thing you're looking out of a spender on a 5-cost character. The Binary Blast, I think, is not going to be a thing you're going to use unless you're looking for the push. Like, her ability to clear the point is going to be really, really good with 2 Binary Blasts and a throw, which we're going to get to in a second here. And then Warbird is kind of a more damaging-based thing. It has the Wild Throw. I think it's just damage focused. Like, it can clear points, but I think if you're looking to clear points and that's your only goal, Binary Blast is where you're at. I'm just getting warmed up. This is a 2-cost, size 4 throw, terrain feature, or enemy character, and it throws medium once per turn. This is Hulk's throw. This is like in the running for best throw in the game. Right? There's some argument as to like how Magneto fits in this, but like pretty undisputed, like about as big as a buyable throw gets, and medium at the cheapest price that throws are. Really, really good. Ready or Not, 0 cost, action. This character makes a move action followed by an attack action. This is Charge, 4-0. Charge is one of the most sought after superpowers in the game. People love playing models with Charge. I don't think there's a single model in the game that has Charge that doesn't seem to play inside their own faction. So, Charge, very, very, very good. I don't need a power up to kick your butt. This is a 0-cost reactive. When this character spends or loses power after the effect is resolved, if the character has 3 or less power, it may use this superpower. This character transforms into Captain Marvel Cosmic Avenger normal. How this is worded is very, very important. It makes it essentially impossible to get stuck in this form. So this form can't build power outside of the power phase. It makes it essentially impossible to get stuck in this form because poison, which maybe you're spend down to 0, but it's like, okay, I'll get 1 next turn, and then somebody puts poison on you. Get your 1 power for the power phase, lose your power to poison. That would allow you to untransform. It makes it very, very hard to get stuck in this form. You essentially have to do it to yourself. Like, it is only a play mistake that will get you trapped. Enhanced energy absorption. When this character is defending against... So this is exactly the same as the other version, the Reverse Pierce. And then for immunities, she picks up Stagger and Stun. The Stagger and Stun interactions are really important because when you go big, you do it at the start of your activation before you get to spend an action. And when you gain immunities, the conditions fall off. So this character, you can stagger her, but if she can find a way to get power onto her, the stagger will fall off. And immunity to stagger is a thing that is incredible on large models. Right? Like one of the main ways to beat big models is to stagger them. It is actually the thing that gives me kind of pause about this model, because stagger and stun are 2 of the best things to do to big boys, as is incinerate, because incinerate is hard to shake when, you know, your action costs so much threat. But it's not on both sides, so maybe you can find a way. So people are going gaga for this character. They're going absolutely bananas. They think she's like one of the best 5 threats in the game. And I think she will have games where she is one of the best 5 threats in the game. I'm actually pretty mid on her compared to the rest of the world. So before I, rain on your parade, this is one of the coolest designed characters that AMG has ever put out. I think the idea of changing binary form to a threshold rather than a superpower that costs power to transform and get access to a bunch of abilities or get bonuses means that it's not a thing you're trying to sustain and turn back on every single turn. It is a state to achieve and then spend your resources and then go try to build up to your big turn again. I think the design is fantastic. I think it's very cool. I think it is hard to believe that the team that made this character and the team that made Viper are the same group of designers. Like, this character is super interesting, and I love the confidence to put something like this in the core box. Like, I know that they wanted to have every mechanic, like grunts and transform, to be placed in the core box, but this is one of the most complicated transform characters. It just shows a lot of faith in your player base to put something this complicated into your core set. And it's also a carrot of like, hey, there is mastery here if that is what you're chasing. So I just really like the confidence in their design to do that. Okay, let's talk about whether this character is good or not. So obviously, binary form, very good. Like, she does kind of an impression of Hulk in binary form. Like, really good throw, really good spenders. Fantastic. Like, if you start with the 6 power, charge warbird, doing a charged warbird into a binary blast into I'm just getting warmed up, that's a lot of damage. 8 dice with maybe a throw and maybe an explosive, and a 6 dice with a push, and then a size 4 throw. That's a lot of damage. That is a 5 threat worth of damage, and she goes very far. Because she transforms, she goes medium again, and she still has her 2 actions intact. So this character is a terrifying, like, ticking time bomb when she gets her power. Okay, let's talk about my main concern with this character. The other side is not good. That is not a 5 threat character. And I think that could be fine. Like, you know, we're going to play 4 turns of the game. I'm not going to be in binary for 2 of them. And that's fine. Or we'll play 6 turns of the game, 2 of the turns, or 3 of the turns. I'm not going to be in binary. The problem is that character can't move opponents and needs to be in 4 of characters to interact with them at all. And otherwise is like, and if she isn't within 4 of a character, she is a walk attack character. Like, your 5 threats activation could very easily be walk, roll a 5 die builder with no juice on it. That's horrendous. It's just like about as bad as a 5 threat activation gets. Now, that being said, getting a Hulk level of activation half the time for 1 less point, is that worth it? I don't think so, but I think that there are going to be very specific places where this character is good. Everyone has essentially assumed that this is an A-Force affiliated character. I'm likely to agree with them. I do think it is somewhat unlikely that AMG gave us charge special delivery. Now, if they did, that's awesome, and that opens up a ton of ways to play A-Force. And A-Force should get cool things. I think A-Force is a really cool faction. I think what Curtis is doing over there, check out the Curtis interview that I did about A-Force and how to play that faction. I think she has really interesting interactions in that faction. So let's move forward and assume she's affiliated A-Force. This is probably her best home. So one of the things that Curtis talks about in that interview is, unlike every other faction, if a character's activation isn't good because they don't have enough power, you can wait. It is possible that one of your other characters will be damaged and you will be able to funnel power to the other one. So Captain Marvel being able to gain power, and then also the redirecting attacks, like sacrificing onto Captain Marvel, can be a huge power swing. You know, she takes like 3 damage and gets her 1 extra 1. Or she takes like 2 damage and canceled one of theirs, and can, you know, essentially like be like, oh, I spent 1 and I got 4, and now I'm going to go binary and I'm going to kick your ass. I think is really, really interesting. Like, this character is going to be dangerous to play against. and to mismanage. But my major concern is that if you're playing a faction that cannot do that for her, are you ever going to be able to stay in binary form? Or are you going to be able to be binary form for enough activations to pull your weight of 5 threat? Because binary form, like if she was just in binary form all the time, like it doesn't really work because of how it works. But if she could consistently be in binary form, activate with her 6 power enough to do spender every turn, this character's really, really good. But I'm really worried that's not the case. That she's just gonna sit in normal form, like you're gonna play her into like spiders, and she's gonna hit binary on like turn 4 for the first time, and spiders are just gonna have played 5 points up. That being said, I am really excited because I've been dabbling in A-Force, and I think there's some really cute things you can do in A-Force. I also think that like the way that Curtis's A-Force plays and the way that I'm playing A-Force is like a very defensive shell. But if Captain Marvel is indeed affiliated, she can really rapidly redeploy where that defensive bubble is, and can also play a version of the list that we didn't talk about in the interview, but that Curtis was experimenting with, which was Greenies and Weenies, where you start with like double Hulk, Black Widow, and Okoye. So that's like your core. So that's what, 12 and another 4. So it's 16 threat core. And the idea is that there's 3 staggers in the list and Okoye to protect the big guys from the big attacks and the little guys from the little attacks. I'm a little bit worried because Captain Marvel doesn't have a stagger, but I'm wondering if she can bring that down to 15, because I think a really interesting 15 to play in A-Force, so if you end up like 15 Gamma, I think that like She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, Widow 1, or Core Widow 1, and Okoye is a really, really interesting list that I think is a really hard nut to crack. Now you lose a lot of the steal and be able to bring things back to your bunker, so it's going to heavily depend on what the extract is, but maybe the extract's researcher, and that's why you're on 15. I think that team is really interesting on that threat level, and I want to play around with it. I think the big takeaway with this character, though, is that she just looks really fun to play. I am really unconvinced by the internet's huge hype for Captain Marvel, but this character is like probably, I don't want to say Mysterio levels of fun, but like Mysterio levels of interesting in her design. I think this character is just really cool, and I think it's really wild that she's in the core box. She got a card, so we're going to talk about her terrible, terrible card, not to give away my opinion on it. But she got Overcharge. So Overcharge is an attack card. Area 2, 6 dice. After the attack is resolved, this character gains 1 power. After each attack is resolved, the target character gains the shock special condition. Thor Odinson or Carol Danvers. Activation. The active character spends 5 power to play this card. Choose an ally Tony Stark within 5 of the character that played this card. Tony Stark immediately makes the attack. So, maybe terrible is like an overstatement here. So with these formats of cards, they're not formatted in a way that makes it obvious whether or not they give you an action. This card does give you an action. And it is a 6-die area attack that gives Tony power. Playing it on Thor or Carol, since we're talking about Carol, and putting a bunch of power on new Tony Stark can be really strong. Like taking 5 power off of Thor and putting maybe 2 or 3 on Tony and a bunch of shocks out seems like it could be very, very strong. For Carol, though, I don't really think so. I don't know if I want to spend 5 power off of the character that is about being the most baller person when you have power. And like her entire gimmick being there. Like, that's almost your entire binary form. Now, if you have to activate her and you're 1 short, I can think of worse ways to spend your power. Make 2 basic attacks and have Tony overcharge. It seems okay. I think this is going to be left at home, though. It might be a cute card that hits Avengers, but I'm really, really not sold on it. So other places that Carol can see play outside of A-Force, Avengers, you get to hit all those wild effects like guaranteed. I think hitting the pursuit with new Tony is going to be a really, really big deal. I think also all the ones that give you power in some way are also interesting with Captain Marvel. So like Inhumans is an interesting place to put her, where you can activate her and pull up, or you can put a power to her to take her over 6 and then activate her, and then she goes binary and just like ruins their day. And or just like every activation just push power to Carol if they're ignoring her, and then if she's going wild where she like is taking like one, she's like being shot by a rapid fire gun and takes 4 damage from 4 separate rapid fire shots and suddenly has 8 power. Handing that out could be very interesting. And then I don't hate her in Red Skull 1. I don't think that's totally awful, but I also don't think Red Skull 1's fantastic, and I think you're kind of better off with MODOK than you are with Carol. I don't expect her to be... Where is original Carol? Alright, original Carol's only affiliated in A-Force and Avengers, and I really don't expect her to be anywhere else. Now, again, I have to put the disclaimer here that supposedly the box can play Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. and Cabal and Avengers right out of it. Carol Danvers is closely S.H.I.E.L.D. associated, at least in the MCU, and like mildly depending on the storyline in the comics. So it's not insane that she might end up there. I don't think she will, especially since we had the panel to play that showed that Spider-Man was, and her panel to play didn't make any mention of her affiliations. So I think she's fine. I hope I'm wrong, because I love it when interesting characters are played all the time. But I think you're going to see her in A-Force, and I think she's going to be a decent character on the right scenario in A-Force, specifically like central ones. And then I think she's going to see play essentially nowhere else. The character's really cool, but I don't think so. Well, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe, because I'm committed to doing one of these for every single character in the core box. And don't forget, guys, that fun is a finite resource.